Loving yourself. Can you remember the last time you were in love? Your heart went, ah. It was such a wonderful feeling. It's the same thing with loving yourself, except that you will never leave. Once you have your love for yourself, it's with you for the rest of your life. So you want to make it the best relationship you can have. Chapter 8, How to Love Yourself. When you forgive and let go, not only does a huge weight drop off your shoulders, but the doorway to your own self-love opens. For many of you who have been working on loving yourselves, and for those of you who are just beginning, I am going to explore some ways to help you learn how to love yourselves. I call it my 10 steps. And I have sent thousands of people this list over the years. Loving yourself is a wonderful adventure. It's like learning to fly. Imagine if we all had the power to fly at will. How exciting would it be? Let's begin to love ourselves now. Many of us seem to suffer from a lack of self-esteem at one level or another. It is very difficult for us to love ourselves because we have all these so-called faults inside us that we feel make it impossible to love ourselves exactly as we are. We usually make loving ourselves conditional. And then when we are involved in relationships, we make loving that person conditional too. We've all heard that we really cannot love someone else until we love ourselves. So now that we have seen the barriers we have set up for ourselves, how do we catapult to the next step? 10 ways to love yourself. 1. Probably the most important key is to stop criticizing yourself. I talk about criticism in chapter 5. If we tell ourselves that we are okay, no matter what is going on, we can make changes in our lives easily. It is when we make ourselves bad that we have great difficulty. We all change, everyone. Every day is a new day. We do things a little differently than we did the day before. Our ability to adapt and flow with the process of life is our power. Those who have come from dysfunctional homes often have become super responsible and have gotten in the habit of judging themselves. They have grown up amidst tension and anxiety. The message they get as children of dysfunctional homes is, there must be something wrong with me. Think for a moment about the words you use when scolding yourself. Some of the phrases people tell me are stupid, bad boy, bad girl, useless, careless, dumb, ugly, worthless, sloppy, dirty, etc. Are these the same words you use now when describing yourself? There is a tremendous need to build self-worth and value in others, because when we feel not good enough, we find ways to keep ourselves miserable. We create illness or pain in our bodies. We procrastinate about things that would benefit us. We mistreat our bodies with food, alcohol, and drugs. We are all insecure in some ways because we are human. Let us learn not to pretend that we are perfect. Having to be perfect only puts immense pressure on ourselves, and it prevents us from looking at areas of our lives that need healing. Instead, we could discover our creative distinctions, our individualities, and appreciate ourselves for the qualities that set us apart from others. Each one of us has a unique role to play on this earth, and when we are critical of ourselves, we obscure it. 2, we must also stop scaring ourselves. Many of us terrorize ourselves with frightful thoughts and make situations worse than they are. We take a small problem and make it into a big monster. It's a terrible way to live, always expecting the worst out of life. How many of you go to bed at night creating the worst possible scenario of every problem? That is like a little child who imagines monsters under the bed and then gets terrified. It's no wonder you can't sleep. As a child, you needed your parent to come and soothe you. Now, as an adult, you know you have the ability to soothe yourself. People who are ill do this a lot. Often they visualize the worst or they're immediately planning their funerals. They give their power to the media and see themselves as statistics. You may also do this in relationships. Someone doesn't call you and you immediately decide that you are totally unlovable and you'll never have another relationship again. You feel abandoned and rejected. You do the same thing with your job. Someone makes a remark at work and you begin to think you are going to be fired. You build these paralyzing thoughts in your mind. Remember, these frightening thoughts are negative affirmations. If you find yourself habitually reviewing a negative thought or situation in your mind, find an image of something you really would like to replace it with. It could be a beautiful view or a sunset, flowers, a sport, or anything you love. Use that image as your switch to. Imagine every time you find that you are scaring yourself. Say to yourself, no, I'm not going to think about that anymore. I'm going to think about sunsets or roses or Paris or yachts or waterfalls. Whatever your image is, if you keep doing this, you will eventually break the habit. Again, it takes practice. 3, another way is to be gentle, kind, and patient with yourself. Orrin Arnold humorously wrote, "Dear God, I pray for patience, and I want it now." Patience is a very powerful tool. Most of us suffer from the expectation of immediate gratification. We must have it now. We don't have the patience to wait for anything. We get irritable if we have to wait in lines or are stuck in traffic. We want all the answers and all the goodies right now. Too often, we make other people's lives miserable by our own impatience. Impatience is a resistance to learning. We want the answers without learning the lesson or doing the steps that are necessary. Think of your mind as if it were a garden. To begin with, a garden is a patch of dirt. You may have a lot of brambles of self-hatred and rocks of despair, anger and worry. An old tree called fear needs pruning. Once you get some of these things out of the way and the soil is in good shape, you and some seeds or little plants of joy and prosperity. The sun shines down on it and you water it and give it nutrients and loving attention. At first, not much seems to be happening, but you don't stop. You keep taking care of your garden. If you are patient, the garden will grow and blossom. The same with your mind. You select the thoughts that will be nurtured, and with patience they grow and contribute to creating the garden of experiences you want. We all make mistakes. It's okay to make mistakes while you are learning. As I said, so many of you are cursed with perfectionism. You won't give yourself a chance to really learn anything new Because if you don't do it perfectly in the first 3 minutes, you assume you are not good enough. Anything you are going to learn takes time. When you first begin doing something, it usually doesn't feel right. To show you what I mean, take a moment right now. Clasp your hands together. There is no right or wrong way to do this. Clasp your hands and notice which thumb is on top. Now open your hands, then clasp your hands again with the other thumb on top. It probably feels strange, odd, maybe even wrong. Clasp them again the first way, then the second way, and the first way again, and the second way, and hold it. How does it feel? Not so odd. Not so bad. You're getting used to it. Maybe you can even learn to do it both ways. It's the same when we are doing something a new way. It may feel different, and we immediately judge it. Yet, with a little bit of practice, it can become normal and natural. We are not going to love ourselves totally in one day, but we can love ourselves a little bit more every day. Each day, we give ourselves a little bit more love, and in 2 or 3 months, we will have come so much further in loving ourselves. So mistakes are your stepping stones. They are valuable because they are your teachers. Don't punish yourself for making a mistake. If you are willing to learn and grow from the mistake, then it serves as a step toward fulfillment in your life. Some of us have been working on ourselves for a very long time and wonder why we still have issues that come up for us. We need to keep reinforcing what we know, not resisting by throwing our hands up in the air and saying, "What's the use?" As we learn new ways, we need to be gentle and kind to ourselves. Remember the garden above. When the negative weeds grow, pluck them out as quickly as you can. And let's leave it there. We will pick up with lesson 4 next time. This chapter was beautiful. We touched base on loving ourselves and not getting down on ourselves, having the patience to understand that we are doing the best we can, and that loving ourselves is the best relationship we can ever have. Take time today to be with yourself, to love yourself, to hug yourself. Stop criticizing yourself. Stop scaring yourself. And remember to be gentle, kind, and patient with yourself. You are worth it, and you are love. And until next time, thank you for joining me.